Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Review.
Today we're going to talk about Holding On, the Troubled Life of Billy Kerr. Now this is a very unique game, and because there's so many spoilers in it, I'm not going to show you much of the game or anything of it at all because of the experience you're going to get from going through the game. So what you're doing is you are like a nurse or a doctor at a hospital, and you've taken an interest in this patient that you have, and he's telling you a story a little bit by little, and you have to make decisions on whether you're going to care for him by giving him medicines and that kind of thing, wrapping him up in bandages, or if you're going to listen to a story more that day. And it's kind of a balance that will go into that. You got to keep him alive. He's probably going to die, but you want to get this story out and find out what happens. Doesn't make a lot of sense from a medical standpoint, but from the game standpoint is you want to hear his story, and the more of that story you can pull out, the better experience and the closer you are to winning the game. So like most story games, you have kind of two different types of them. You have the first type, which is play a funny card and you make something up and the story will come out and the story kind of drives the game. Then you have the other side where you're playing a board game, and during that board game a story will come out, like a Descent or an Imperial Assault or a Zombicide. You're kind of filling in the pieces of that story, but a story comes out of the gameplay. And then you have games that just don't worry about story at all. Agricola doesn't really have a story. Caverna doesn't have a story. It's just a game. Well, Billy Kerr, Holding On, is heavily attached to the story, yet the story can be a little bit vague and open up into interpretation. And how you're going to be able to get that story out of it is going to be a lot of work, doing the same thing over and over again and making the same decisions. And the story-driven games tend to fall into a pattern where they're not very good. The story may be fantastic, but the game isn't very good. So Call to Adventure is a game like this, where I guess there's a story going on, and I'm piecing that story together, but what I'm doing on any given turn isn't all that interesting. So this game falls into that same trap where I need more of the story consistently, otherwise I'm going to get bored because what I'm doing isn't interesting and it isn't fun to do. So at some point you're just playing the game hoping to get another story out of it. And if you don't get the best ending or the good ending, I'm not sure you're going to want to keep playing this, okay? First of all, the story's a little bit of a downer, right? So it's got some things going on that are really sad, and that's okay. I like this War of Mine. I think that is a really fun game. I think it's very brutal, would probably be the negative to that. And I think it tells a story, a very important story, about what it's like to live during a war. And this one is talking about a man's life and what he's going through. So you have some ups and downs, but it's a lot more downs than it is ups. So that's going through. And when you're done, it's not story with words, it's stories with pictures. So you're kind of putting it together what happened. And there's no key to it, so I can figure out exactly what happened. It's opened up to that interpretation. There's not a lot online about it, about what actually happened. I would guess a lot of people didn't play this to conclusion, and you can even just, like, when you're done playing, just put all the cards out and kind of piece the story together how you see fit, which is okay. I like something a little bit more narratively driven that kind of has something going on. I don't like the silliness of like a story war or something where we're just making up things. It's just not that much fun to me, but this worked in that regard, and I found it to be the most interesting part. Unfortunately, I had to play the game to get there, right? So the game wasn't as strong as I wanted it to be. The same thing over and over again. The decisions are a little bit luck-based, and you're really hoping to get those. If you're lucky enough to get those matching memories, which you're going to be doing in this game, is matching the memories, and it becomes in focus, I think that you're going to enjoy the game more. There's a little bit of a cheat in it. I think that would work a little bit better. At the end of the day, I wanted to know the story. The story was encompassing enough that I bought it and I played through it and I wanted the story, but I was really bored getting there. And that's why Holding On, Troubled Life of Billy Kerr, I think is a pass for me, is because the game itself wasn't strong enough. It's not something that I wanted to play, regardless of the story. And then once you kind of know the story and you have it all done, I don't know if there's a reason to go back to it because the game isn't strong enough, right? You get like a Caverna, a Feast for Odin, Terraforming Mars. It's like there isn't much of a story. Terraforming Mars is a story. You're terraforming Mars, but it doesn't matter. The game is strong enough that you start to care about the game more than the story. This one's more you're going to care about the story, and once you know it, I don't think there's a lot to go back to. So Holding On to Life, I want a game like this. I want it to succeed. Time Stories wasn't it. This wasn't it. Call to Adventure wasn't it. We're getting close. I think there's some really good story-driven games, but I also want something a little bit simple where anybody can play it. And I think the escape box games are really good at that versus something like this that kind of plays like an escape game, but it's more story-driven, and it just did not work for me. Let me put it to you plainly, because I've been all over the place with this. It was boring. Oh yeah. You're not going to have fun playing this game. And then the story is such a downer that, I'm getting negative on the game because of the boredom factor, but on top of it, the story's kind of bringing me down. It reminds me a lot of Last of Us 2, if you ever played that video game, where it's like constantly just beating you up, constantly, and there's no thrill to it. Even the funness of the boards become repetitive with the stalking and the killing. You know, that's what you're going to do in that game. With this game, what I'm doing is it becomes repetitive, and I'm trying to get that balance just right. But when I want to go after, it's like I want to rush to that, but I can't. I got to do the boring part of it. And I guess that's the point of the game, but it's not a board game I wanted to play. Now, with that said, if I was going to play this, I think I would play it solo. I think that's the better way to play this. Yes, you play it with more people, but I think a solo experience will work just fine with this game, in my respect. So I'm not going to do a long tour. I didn't want to play through it. I didn't want to show you any of the cards. I wanted it to be, if you're going to play this, I wanted it to be open. I wanted it to be spoiler-free. If you're looking for a mechanism video, this probably is not going to be it. It's a worker placement where you're putting these workers out and on these cars, and you got to fill it up, and you can have workers that work sometimes. It's just a mess, and the components are very generic, kind of like Time Stories, where they were very generic and not enough story. So for me, it's going to be a Purge, and one I would tell you to probably pass this one all by. I'm not going to play it again. At the end of it, I played all the cards out, looked through the story, and had a good time with that, but I think I'm finished with this one. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. If you don't mind clicking a like, it really helps out some of the smaller channels like myself. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.